Okay, cover stitching the elastic. It's really, this is pretty basic, simple step. Once you have, you've checked, made a sample, make sure your stitch is looking good. And of course, I'm going through my elastic here for my test. And I'm also sewing in the same direction of grain as I will be on my actual project. That's how I like to do my tests. Now, really the only trick, I hope I can get close enough with this camera here. The only trick to this, so you've got your elastic attached. I used a zigzag. And you're just going to fold it under. You want to hold this in a way that you're stretching a little bit, pulling this way and also pulling this way so that the fabric is pushed against this edge. That'll help prevent puckers and make a nice even line of stitching. The way I always start out, put my goggles on so I can see, I start out by, after I do my test, the next thing I do is I line this up as if I were going to sew on the inside, but I'm not, and I select a line, a guideline to follow. Okay, so sometimes my elastic's different widths, and I assume that I know that mark, and it can vary, so it's a good idea to check. And then I get this fabric nice and snug against the elastic. I like to start, make sure all my threads are at 10 o'clock. I did the method where I brought the threads to the back before I started here so that my threads are loose and I could get my project in, which is kind of necessary if you're doing a in the round, if you're working in the round. So I get that positioned how I want. I'm also going to make sure I don't have any puckers in the back of that foot. You notice my fingers here, I'm pulling the fabric a little this way as I put the foot down, so I'm not starting with a pucker. I got my needle threads there nice and clean. So I'm going to kind of hold this for just a couple stitches to get going. Okay, and then I'm going to move my hands to this position. Again, I'm pulling this way a little, and I'm pulling this way a little. Ooh, that wasn't very straight. Yeah, I can tell my cover stitch just kind of wants to be right here. Sometimes your machine wants to stitch on a slightly different plane than the line you established, and sometimes I just go with it. It does that on collars, neck bands on t-shirts. Like, it'll just want to fall in a certain spot. Yeah, interesting. So, it's fine. Why fight it, right? Now, you don't want to do too much at once. I'm going to do a little section at a time here. I'm also kind of going to make that straight from behind. I'm trying to keep my arm out of the camera. That's not really working for me. Whoa. That stool's totally in the way. I've got a stool next to me with the camera on it. I want this nice and flat. This is definitely not my most even one. Fabric's scooching around a little bit. Not a big deal. Wow. Hopefully you'll get yours more even than that. I'm catching both. I'm catching all the layers, I think, pretty much. I'm not really trying to cover it. I'm just trying to get close. That's what I normally do on the elastic. Struggling here, look. It's kind of a thin jersey. I might be going partly over the edge, and maybe that's an issue. I don't know. Like my left needle might be going off the elastic. Yeah, see, that might be the problem. Which actually looks kind of good. It'd look better if I were consistent. I don't care. You know. It's all good. So before I get around here, I'm going to snip my starting threads. And as I get close, I'm looking at these two guidelines here on my foot that show the position of the needles, and I'm kind of aiming to hit my target here to go back over my first stitches. And as I get really close, I can take a peek. Now I can see those stitches coming through. Looks good, and I'll do this method just because I like my stitches to go to the back. Makes it nice and tidy. I like to end this way. I end this way most of the time. If it doesn't want to come out, double check that your needles are in the highest position. And just give a gentle tug to get all those threads to the end. And I do like to tie those in a little knot before I cut them. So, there it is. It wasn't my most even one ever, but it'll certainly do the job.